12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. Looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who, for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Here is a reading of God's word this morning.
2 years ago, she finally did it. She finally did it. She tried before and had not been able to do it, but she persevered and finally was able to complete the task. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us get rid of all that clings to us and the sin that holds us down, and run the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who, though he was of God, did not give up, but kept on running, looking to the joy that was set before him. He endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken a seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Let us run the race that is set before us. What race? What race are we running? What is the race set before us? This image probably comes from the typical stadiums, arenas that were in almost every Roman city, where they had sporting events and games. Just like Rose Hill today, you can't drive between here and the city of Rose Hill without seeing our great arena and stadium where we put on sporting events. It's called Football Field. They play football, soccer, track and field. All sorts of activities go on. The same thing happened in the day when the writer of Hebrews was writing. More than likely, he's talking about some type of foot race. Perhaps even a marathon. I asked earlier, anybody here run a marathon? We had one person. You had? No? Oh, my hand's not up, okay? Craig Anderson raised his hand at the early service. But it was probably a marathon race the writer was talking about. And much as in the Olympics, when they run the marathon, they come to the last part of the marathon race and finish it inside the stadium, inside the arena, watching people run and finish. The great cloud of witnesses were all the people gathered around cheering, "Yay, yay, run, run!" So that's the image. That's the race they were running. And yet, the text says, we are to run the race set before us. The race could be simply living our lives. We could say, well, that's the race. Trying to live life as fully as we possibly can. You say, well, that's it. That's our race. Maybe that's all there is. Or some people say, no, there's more. But when you die, you keep on racing, you keep on running, or you finally get to the destination. But it's a race. Maybe the race is just to be nice people. Or maybe the race is to be a good Christian. Or maybe the race is to simply be a person of faith. Or perhaps the race is, well, I'll just keep on plugging away and hope everything works out the best way it can. I suggest to you this morning that the only race set before us, and not merely us, but any person in the world, in time past, in time present, or in the future, the only race set before us is the race of loving fully and completely. Oh, here we go again, John, back to this love business. That's all you have to do. Love, love, love. All we need is love. If all we need to do is love, and by the way, I remember that in the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, it says to love God, love your neighbor. In the Christian Scriptures, the New Testament, it says, as Jesus sums up the law, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And then Jesus goes on and says, love your enemies. Love. In fact, the writer of Hebrews, let's jump over to 13, says, let mutual love continue. Let mutual love go on unending. I suggest that the race set before any of us and all of us is to love fully. You may want to poo-poo that, and I'm fine with it. We can talk about it. But the question I ask myself and would ask anybody is, how you doing? How you doing at really, really loving God, your neighbor, yourself, your enemy? I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm really not doing very well at all. I strive to be a person who loves. And I don't think love always means just saying, oh, whatever. Sometimes love is challenging. Sometimes love means inviting people to be accountable for their actions. Sometimes love means caring enough to take a risk and risk yourself. I think that's the race set before us. The text says we have a great cloud of witnesses. According to Hebrews 12:1, the great cloud of witnesses have been talked about in Hebrews chapter 11. We talked about chapter 11 last week. Hope. Faith is the substance of things, the conviction of things hoped for, the substance of things not seen. So we talked about faith and hope. But that is the great cloud of witnesses. In Hebrews 11, he goes a whole string of folks who live by faith. Abraham, Moses, Noah, all types of people who live by faith. And he said, these are a great cloud of witnesses. Perhaps you've been in a sporting event or some sort of a contest. And as you were striving in the contest, you heard people in the crowd going, go, 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 you can do it, come on, keep on trying, go, go. I think that's the witnesses. They're offering encouragement to us. They're urging us on. That great cloud of witnesses who have gone before us are urging us on today to be people of love. And so we got to let go of everything that weighs us down and clings closely to us like sin. If you're going to run a marathon, most people do not put on as much clothing as they can, find the heaviest boots they can, put on a 100-pound backpack, carry weights, carry luggage, and pull a cart with them. No, if they're going to run a marathon, they try to get rid of everything. They try to jettison everything to be as light as they possibly can be. I hear it makes it easier. Let go of every weight clinging close to us. Always looking to Jesus, pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who was not afraid to go to the cross and die as an act of love, radical love. How are we going to do this? What does it mean to let go of every weight and sin clinging to us? I want to push this text in on itself and say to let go of everything that's hanging to us is to let go of complaining and criticism and be an encourager. That's hard work. I mean, it's one thing to say, well, we're just going to love everybody. But then if we take away the opportunity to complain and criticize, then we're in deep trouble. Or at least I am. I got a little story from a woman named Robin Speed. She's talking about, she decided she was going to stop complaining and stop criticizing people. She said, I thought it would be easy. I really did. She said, I remember when I was younger, I was trying to be positive and encouraging. She said, I really didn't like beets, but when I go to my grandmother's house and she'd pile beets on my plate, I'd eat them and say thank you. Or if I go over to a friend's house and her mother piled beets on my plate, I'd choke them down and say, oh, thank you very much for a nice meal. She said, but somehow I didn't keep that up. And she said, why is it that complaining and criticizing people has become such a part of our behavior that we find it abundantly hard not to complain and not to criticize? Why are we so eager to find fault? Why do we look for the negative qualities about people and situations? Why are we so much more often pessimistic than optimistic? She said, somehow we learn lessons. As an adult, we are supposed to criticize and complain. We are taught how to do it, and we're encouraged to do it. Now, there are lots of ways to love. But I think if we'll fold this text back on itself, that great cloud of witnesses encouraging us, do you think that great cloud of witnesses is up there? And it's not just people in Hebrews 11. It's our loved ones who've gone before us. You think they're watching over us and saying, oh, you did a lousy job. Oh, I'm so disappointed. You're really missing. You think that's what they're doing? I think they're encouraging us. And I think that's what this text is calling us to run the race of love and to support each other in the process. And I got to tell you what, I fell flat on my face this week. I was with a group of folks, and I jumped right in with both feet, both arms, and my mouth. And boy, we were whining and complaining and criticizing other people, up one side, down the other. And we were really going after them. And I kind of felt good at the time. I think it made me feel a little bit better about myself. Well, I'm not as bad as them. Made me feel just like I'm not so bad. It was only as I thought about it, I began to realize what I'd done. It's so easy to complain, to criticize others. And yet we are called to be people of love, running the race of love, and we ought to do nothing other than encourage. It requires persistence. She tried this 4 times prior to 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, the Labor Day weekend, that she finally did it. She tried it 4 times. The first time at age 28, and 2 years ago when she finally did it, she was 64 years old. Diana Nyad swam from Cuba to Florida without the benefit of a shark tank in 53 hours. Now, she did wear a little special mask and some body suits to prevent jellyfish stings, but she did it. 53 hours swimming in the water from Cuba to Florida. First person to do it without a shark cage. She had other swimmers with her in case there were sharks, but they saw no sharks on this swim 2 years ago, this Labor Day weekend. And she got through the jellyfish. She was able to swim, keep her nutrients up. The current was with her for a change instead of against her. This was the fourth time. The fourth time she tried it. Starting at age 28, 64 years old. Cuba to Florida, swimming in the water. Wow, you talk about persistence. You talk about try again. You talk about keeping on. In fact, after she failed the third time, she said, I'll never try again. And then she did. And the fourth time, she finally made it. Well, guess what? Right after she did it, people started criticizing. Well, I think she had help. Oh, I think she got in her boat. Oh, she got on a jellyfish protector. Well, I'm not sure she really did it right. How easy it is to be critical of someone else when each and every one of us are in exactly the same race. The race to love. How can we encourage those whom we think are so awful and evil? How can we be encouraging to President Assad of Syria? How can we be encouraging to those folks who are part of the Islamic State, ISIS or ISIL? How can we be encouraging to those people who are running away from war, a threat of war, or violence? How can we be encouraging to people who are turning immigrants away? How can we be encouraging to those who are saying, welcome, come on in? Oh, how can we be encouraging and not complain? Well, Hebrews 12 goes on into verse 3 and 4. Verse 3. Consider Jesus, who endured such hostility against himself from sinners, so that you may not grow weary or lose heart. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. This writer is serious in saying if you're going to run the race of love, you're going to risk giving your life. I thought about it. There's people that I and my friends are feeling good about criticizing. I thought about it. Did I have the courage, the guts, the love, the perseverance to not complain about them, or at least do as much as Bambi? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But did I have the courage not to criticize them in front of others, or even in my own mind? Did I have the courage, if I thought they were so awful, to go to them and say, I am here in love. I care about you as a human being. And I find the things that you're doing may be lessening your ability to run the race of love. Am I willing to go to them and affirm them, encourage them, and run the risk of saying something that might make them dislike me? Can I do it in a loving way? I say something to them, when they come back to me and say, well, John, now that you brought it up, here's what I see you doing, and I wonder if you're really loving as well as you ought. It's hard work, my friends, this race of love. That's why the writer of Hebrews says we've got a great cloud of witnesses. I can hear them right now saying, come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And can it be? Could it be that we, members and friends of the Rose Hill United Methodist Church, are known as the greatest encouragers in the world? The race is before us. And God is with us. Let us run the race with persistence, never giving up on love. But to quote the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13, and so, faith, hope, and love abide. But the greatest of these is love.